our first hero. Noah's on his way to class. Noah seems like a nice enough kid, if not much for schooling. In fact, he's so average in class that his best friend even offers to help him cheat.
Check your messages. Whoa, gee, thanks, man.
Yeah, those are the answers right there. But Noah, being the good kid that he is, decides not to use them. Oh wait, no. Oh, it's not because he wants to do the right thing, it's because he was scared.
You didn't use the text I sent you. Mr. White coughed. I think he saw.
That sounds like a character arc waiting to happen for Noah. But before we get there, we have to first cover the rest of his family. First up is his mom, Jo, but we can call her Mom. She seems nice enough, just your classic mom trying to do the best by her kids. She's married to David, but we really can't call him Dad. They appear to be in love, but Dad's a workaholic and doesn't really have time for his children. We immediately see this as that family has Easter plans and the dad is already bailing on him.
Oh, sweetheart.
Sorry, I'm gonna get home late, so eat without me, okay?
Come on, Dad, don't let the family down. But it's too late, cause it happened. The Easter trip was gonna be to a small beach town called Whidbey. And although they're still going, it now looks like it's gonna be tomorrow morning instead. It's now that we meet the final member of this family, Emma. She's the youngest and thus the cutest. But we also get the sense that she's a little special. For example, while her brother plays video games, she's upstairs practicing the violin, and only comes down because a string snapped. She asks her brother to fix it for her, but he's being a dick about it.
You know what? It snapped. I can't do it.
Why couldn't I have a normal sister like everyone else?
That's a little harsh, but we get the sense that he's just upset that his dad isn't around tonight. I understand. And what's more, despite how mean he is to his sister, there's clearly love there.
Where's the stupid string?
It's in my stupid hand.
Oh, how sweet of him. Besides, this is all Dad's fault anyway for not being home on time. When he does get home, he finds Noah on the floor of his bedroom moping. But it's Dad to the rescue, and soon he and Noah are making up.
Noah Wilder. He's the greatest kid I know.
I'm tempted to forgive Dad right here and now, but it's that night that his boss calls, and Dad has no choice but to go into work tomorrow. He promises his wife that he'll meet them at Whidbey later in the day. But based on the promises he's kept so far, I'm not going to be counting on it. With Dad staying home, the Wilder family is off on their holiday. And as soon as they arrive, we see how perfect this holiday spot is. Indeed, even Mom can't help but be impressed.
Oh, look at it. It's so beautiful.
Sure is, Mom. Noah and Emma are excited about it too, running through the house as they check the place out. By far, though, the most exciting part is that beach right next door. And pretty soon the kids are headed down for a day of fun. It's not too long before Emma spots something in the water. Noah goes on to investigate, eagerly grabbing at whatever that is, and literally launching it into the sky as he wrenches it from the water. It lands in the sand near Emma, and both the kids are at it, whatever it is. Looks like some kind of futuristic cube. But Noah and Emma are studying that thing and somehow manage to pop it open. Inside is some sort of tablet, but this thing's glowing. But Noah swears his sister to secrecy, just as Mom calls him inside. Now what's stranger is that when Noah holds this tablet, it glows and is filled with crazy patterns. But when Mom holds it,
Look at all those triangles.
Make a nice paperweight.
clearly only children can see whatever this thing is. Now that night, Emma wakes up and is drawn to the cube under the bed. As her brother's sleeping, she pops it open, and this time, there are even more strange items in there. Most of them are odd-looking rocks and seashells, but there's also a stuffed bunny rabbit, which Emma takes right away. She picks it up and we can hear it speaking to her.
Mimzy?
Regardless, Emma's pretty chuffed until Noah wakes up and demands to know where that rabbit came from. She tells him that it came from the cube, but Noah's not buying that. She then shows him the stones, but when Noah demands that she hand him over, she refuses. A classic brother-sister tugging match ensues, and soon the stones are scattered all over the ground and smash into a dozen smaller pieces. And Noah, that was your fault. But Emma doesn't seem to mind. She sits down with the broken stones and starts to play. Soon they're spinning along the ground, and even sooner, they're buzzing and creating a, well, I don't know what that is exactly. Emma even says that Noah can use the stones for his science project. But Noah is adamant that he isn't doing one and that his teacher, Mr. White, wouldn't care less. Is that so, Noah? Well, let's cut to Mr. White and find out. We meet Mr. White and his girlfriend Naomi at home. By the looks of things, they're both pretty spiritual people. Naomi's here meditating. After a while, they get to speaking about a strange dream that Mr. White had, one he's had many times.
I had another one of those dreams last night. Spinning mandala shape. The shape is sucking me into it.
Naomi quietens him down, but that's just because she's interested in the other aspect of the dream. You see, apparently, the first time he dreamt it, he also saw future lottery numbers. They didn't use them though, and now regret the fact that they could have won $18 million. Or at least she's regretting it. Mr. White just wants to know what the dream means. Now we're back at the beach, and Emma and Noah are playing with their new stones. Emma's obsessed with her rabbit, Mimzy. She thinks she can talk to it. But Noah's more interested in the stones. He lifts one to his ear, and the sound that comes out of it, well, here, take a listen. It's kind of strange, right? Even more strange is that once Noah pulls it away from his ear, he can hear everything. And I do mean everything. He can hear what his mom's listening to on her iPhone. He can hear the leaves rustling, bugs creeping. He can even speak with the spiders using micro frequencies that are only susceptible to them. And still, they decide not to tell their parents. Probably for the best. Now the next morning, we see Emma having tea with Mimzy. By now we're starting to realize that Mimzy might be more than just a stuffed bunny. In fact, Emma's Mimzy's best friend, and they have actual conversations that only she can hear. You do you, Emma.
I know, I'm your friend too.
Meanwhile, Noah's seeing all kinds of crazy shapes in the sky, ones that he can't explain. But that's nothing when he uses these images to teleport a can of soda across the backyard. And just to keep on piling to the weirdness, Emma's claiming that Mimzy can see the future. This is a proven moment later when she says,
She knows all about us. She said Dad's gonna call.
and she was right. Emma's running in and her mother goes to tell that her daddy's coming, but guess what, Ma? Your daughter's rabbit told her. Not that anyone cares, cause Dad arrives a moment later and it's one big happy family again. Except for Mom. She's starting to suspect something's up, although typical mom just assumes it's her children finally starting to grow up.
You know, we haven't played one board game since we've been here.
They're growing up.
Even Dad agrees with this, but again they just assume that their kids are changing. Nothing weird to see here, folks. So with the weekend over, Noah's back in school, where we get a lecture from Mr. White. The lecture's about DNA, but really we, the audience, know that this is the movie's theme, being gift-wrapped and handed to us.
Because pollutants can change us. And not just chemical and biological ones, cultural ones as well.
To sum it all up for you, it's really just about how our past mistakes can affect our future lives and those people that we care about. And then he shows him a mutated snake with 2 heads. With the class over, Noah's on his way home when Mr. White pulls him up in the hallway. It seems that Noah left a drawing behind in class and Mr. White is beyond fascinated by it. He shows him more that he drew, and this is blowing his mind. The drawings are of mandalas, and he's asking if Noah knows what that is, but he's got no idea. Which only makes Mr. White even more curious. That night, he's back with his girlfriend, and they're scrounging around through a bunch of large textbooks in search of something. A moment later, and they found what they were looking for. It's a mandala drawing. The exact same one that Noah drew. Only this drawing's like thousands of years old, and there's no way that he could have known what it looked like. Even more perplexing is the dream that Mr. White had, because the drawing was in his dream. Now that night, Noah's dad's woken by a strange noise coming from Noah's bedroom. He's working on something for the science fair. His dad asking what it is, and Noah explains,
Spiders are sensitive to sound waves. Then I experimented with the frequencies to make them move in specific patterns.
From there, we cut to Noah at the science fair, where he's explaining how he basically taught these spiders to build their webs in the shape of a bridge. He shows the audience who's gasping in awe at what they're seeing. Oh yeah, everyone's impressed, his parents especially. Oh, well, Mr. White over here is the most impressed.
This is more than highly gifted. This is genius.
Meanwhile, Emma's being babysat back home. They're reading Alice in Wonderland, and strangely, there's a photo of Alice in the book and she's holding a rabbit just like Mimzy. This gets the two talking about aliens, and where to the babysitter the conversation seems benign, we get the sense that there's more to it than that. But then Emma asks,
If I show you something, promise you won't tell?
"Aw, a perfectly innocent question," until Emma pulls out those stones of hers. As expected, they begin to do that spin thing and produce that force field. The babysitter freaks out as Emma's shoving her hand in, laughing the whole time. Soon the babysitter's rushing out of that house screaming just as her parents arrive home. By then the force field's gone and everything's looking normal, except for that whacked out babysitter running for her life, but don't worry about her. Now that night, Noah's sitting in his room when the stones begin to act up again. That tablet thing from earlier begins to glow and buzz, and then it gets sucked into another one of the stones. This sees it begin to freak out, whir, and buzz even louder. It looks like it's gonna explode, and suddenly it does. Boom! Sends a huge shockwave through the house, and then through the city, and then like through half the state, sending everything into a total blackout. From there, we cut to some serious looking guys wearing suits. One of them is FBI Special Agent Broadman. He and his men want to know what this blackout was and the heck caused it. And if you want to know what kind of guy this is, well, here he is.
We're going to do this right. We're going to do it by the book.
Naturally, the parents are a little worried about what's going on with their kids. Before they get a chance to further address it, however, White and his girlfriend Naomi turn up at the house and ask to speak with them. Well, that's good timing. Here, Mr. White shows the mother the mandala drawings in their book, the original ones. They explain what the mandala drawings are and how rare they are. Well, she's fascinated by these drawings, but that's nothing compared to her shock when they tell her that Noah drew these exact drawings without having seen them.
When I saw Noah's drawings, it really struck a chord.
That's one way of describing it. Naomi goes on to explain that in Tibet, there were these special children with extraordinary abilities that are somehow related to these drawings. Mr. White goes on to explain that these children had special palms that can be read to show if these children are gifted or not. Noah pops his head in, asking if Naomi can have a look for him. When she does, she explains that Noah isn't one. But then Emma sticks her hand out, and wouldn't you know it, her hands are perfect.
This is a very special hand. I've never seen anything so pure. It means you have a remarkable child.
This is too much for Mom, and she's freaking out, asking Mr. White to just leave. This conversation extends that night though when she's explaining it all to her husband, who's even more dismissive. And then, in an effort to try and get his family back on the right path, he even joins them for breakfast the next morning. It should be a sweet moment, but soon Dad's asking Emma to get rid of the rabbit. She's worried that Mimzy's dying, and this seems to be the last straw. He tries to take the rabbit from Emma, who's screaming and crying. But then, when Dad asks for more sugar on his cereal, Emma goes on to use her mind powers to move the sugar through the air. Not very subtle, Emma, but it got the message across. Finally, she's got their attention. And wouldn't you know it, they have no choice but to call Mr. White back. Unfortunately, he seems to have no idea what to make of this either. But again, another curveball is thrown at him when Noah comes down screaming that Emma needs help. Everyone's rushing upstairs to find Emma floating in the sky. She's fine and everything, but for Mom, that's enough. She knows that this has something to do with those rocks the kids found. And despite their protests, she collects them all and throws them in the trash outside. And that includes Mimzy. What's kind of a sad moment turns as Noah just sneaks out that night and collects them from the trash because, duh, Ma. Naturally, Emma's pretty excited to have Mimzy back. Now she shows Noah the Alice in Wonderland book and how she had a Mimzy rabbit just like this one.
Maybe she needed a brother like you. And I can't do it all alone, Noah.
Confused? Yeah, don't worry. We are too. But the kids seem to know what's going on. So from there, Emma makes the rock spin again and producing a force field. This time, however, she shoves her head inside. And that's when she sees a flash-forward vision from the future. It's the scientists from the opening scene working on some sort of project. Again, we don't know what it is, but we know that it's important. Now the next day, the father tells his wife that he's taken a leave of absence from work, just until he's sure that everything's all right. Another sweet moment ruined a moment later when a bunch of cops swarm through the house and arrest the entire family. Well, they're yelling and screaming. The father wants to see a warrant, but Broadman tells him that he doesn't need one. And with that, the entire family's thrown into the back of a van and taken away. A few minutes later, sees them in a room, waiting to be questioned. Here, Noah's panicking, knowing that he's the reason that they're here, but it's not really his fault. He didn't know what the generator could do. Broadman goes in to speak with the family, and pretty soon Emma's telling him everything. But she's a kid and it's all about her rabbit Mimzy. She's sounding nuts. Until she throws him her magic trick with the rocks. That pretty much turned everyone around. Unfortunately, now we have the suits start to dissect Mimzy in an effort to figure out what's happening. And they still don't even know.
But we are eons away from achieving anything like this. Eons.
Everyone's confused, including the audience. That is until Emma decides to tell them what Mimzy's saying.
People in the future can't travel through time. They need our help. We have what they need. She says it's in our genes.
Apparently, this Mimzy is the last one. They've sent the others in the past to look for whatever it is in our genes to help them, but they've been unsuccessful. Mimzy and Emma are their last hope. It's a great little pitch, but the adults in the room decide that Emma's just being crazy. Well, in their defense, she kinda does sound it. So that night, our two kids stage a breakout, using a little bit of telepathy because why not at this point? They manage to pick the locks with their minds, collect Mimzy, and then just jump into a van and drive away. Where they headed? Who knows? Meanwhile, Mr. White is having another dream. This one has him freaked out.
I knew something really important was gonna happen. Then I got scared and I woke up.
Naomi convinces himself to listen to these dreams and to do something about them. Mr. White and his girlfriend take their car and drive it to exactly where the kids are waiting for them. Both are equally as confused as to what's happening.
Mr. White, what are you doing here?
I don't know what I'm doing here. What am I doing here?
The kids tell Mr. White that they need to get to Whidbey Island, and although Mr. White's skeptical, his girlfriend forces him to take him.
The whole universe is trying to communicate with you, and you're worried about something as earthbound as kidnapping?
Now on the way to Whidbey Island, Emma begins to become upset that Mimzy's gonna die. She's crying, and the tears land on Mimzy, and they get absorbed in a way that suggests something strange just happened. At Whidbey now, the kids run into the house and collect the rest of the stones. Then they spread them out on the grass, and soon enough, that same force field is back.
You're gonna have to turn it on and aim it right there.
Somehow, no one knows what she's talking about. He hurries to get the generator and does as she says. As this is happening, the parents and the FBI arrive at the house, but upon seeing what is happening, they take a step back and just let nature take its course. The generator starts to react. It's shaking, humming, and vibrating. The force field grows, and grows. But it's okay, as Emma realizes what's happening.
We're building the bridge. It's for Mimzy to go back.
The father takes the generator from Noah, and he crawls under the force field and grabs Emma just in time to see Mimzy sucked into oblivion. And then, nothing. Gone. Again, everyone's shocked, us included. And even though this has only opened more questions than it answered, the FBI agents are still willing to forgive and forget.
I don't understand this, and I know I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do for you guys?
Oh, but the good news keeps on coming.
But when it disappeared, I did see numbers.
Well, that's a happy ending, I guess, if I've ever seen one. The FBI has left them alone, Dad's home from work, and the family is back together. And Mr. White is gonna win the lotto. We then see a flashback to the future, where the movie began. The teacher is finishing the story to her children. She explains what Mimzy brought back with her.
But in Emma's tears was the instruction for an awakening.
Turns out that Emma managed to save all of humanity. Or rather, Mimzy did, with help from Emma. And indeed, with the story finished, the teacher dismisses the children who float into the sky and fly away. Just like Emma. Thanks for chilling with us on the recap of Last Mimzy, produced by New Line Cinema, released back in 2007. You know, I always like a good sci-fi movie. Tell us, of all the powers these kids developed, which would you like to have the most? Let us know those answers with the hashtag Cinema Recap, and as always, till next time.